Okay, I'd like to call the site plan review committee to order for Tuesday, June 7th. Roll call, please.
Mary Podolsky. Dennis Persick.
Here.
Dan Cameron.
Here.
Gary Paul.
Here.
Chris Atkinson.
Here.
Andy Krowski.
Here.
And Dale Quinn.
Here.
Please stand for pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please always remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Action on the site plan review minutes from the regular meeting of May 17th, 2022.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carries. 6, review plans for the following locations. A, action regarding requested site plan review for Woodside. Parcel VA-143-3, 1060 Pilgrim Way, refuse enclosure and exterior freezer.
Mary, I'll be abstaining from voting since it is one of my projects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bring up the project here. There you go. All right. As depicted on the map, this is a request for an exterior freezer and relocated refuse enclosure located really in the interior of the Woodside complex as indicated on the map. The exterior freezer is necessary to accommodate a remodeling of the commercial kitchen at Woodside. The kitchen, the freezer and the refuse enclosure are both masonry with full gates on the refuse enclosure. Staff has no recommended conditions of approval for the project. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, Jessica Atkinson with Woodside is also invited.
Aaron, that thing is completely concealed from all parking lot and the road.
Well, from the road, I mean, there are some parking adjacent to it,
Oh, I see it. Okay, I see what it's at.
right, but it is concealed from the streets.
Concealed next to it. Okay. No other questions, I'll move to approve.
And a motion and a second to approve the requested site plan for parcel VA-143-3, the Pilgrim Way refuse enclosure and exterior freezer. Any more questions? Oh, we have a second. Hang on a second.
One in here, sorry.
Any questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Thank you.
Welcome back, Chris.
Yeah.
6B, requested site plan review for detached garage exceeding 576 square feet at 2246 Center Street, parcel VA-460-E-84. Aaron.
All right, this is a very minor exceedance. The existing garage right now,
I have pictures if you want to see.
oh, I'll let you know if we need them. I think we'll be good. So the applicant proposing to remove what you see on the screen is garage 2. And right now it does extend out 26 feet right here, 10 feet wide. So this is garage 2 that's existing. That will be torn down. And the replacement will be 24 feet wide by 11 feet. Sorry, 24 feet wide by 11, 24 feet here, 11 feet here. So you're really adding on 1 foot in width, subtracting 2 feet in depth.
We're trying to make it kind of square because it sticks out far and it's leaking all over the place on the addition.
Anybody have any questions?
No regulation.
We've done expansions like that in that area in the past. Am I correct?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. Any other concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 6C, action regarding a resubmitted site plan review for the experienced Greater Greenway Visitor Center, 1945 Argonne Street, parcel VA-46-5.
All right, third time is hopefully the charm for the visitor center. This is a resubmitted site plan for the experienced Green Bay Visitor Center to be located on Argonne, immediately south of the US Bank building. I'm not sure where that is. There's a vacant lot there right now. This was previously submitted twice and approved with staff conditions. The site plan expired both times after the year. However, financing and funding is in place at this point to move forward with the project. So we're looking forward to seeing this project come to fruition. As you can see the site plan, here is Brookwood Drive, here's Argonne, US Bank is right here to the north, and this is the proposed building right here. Architectural plans and elevations have not changed since last approval, as you can see there. In terms of recommended conditions of approval, these are actually the same as last time. Use of fully concealed fasteners for exterior wall panels. Screen any new or larger replacement rooftop or ground mounted mechanical units visible from the property boundaries or public right of way. The catch-all meet all applicable requirements of the Ashwaubenon site plan review and all other applicable village ordinances. A couple notes regarding the 6-inch water service and 6-inch sanitary lateral and 6-foot diameter underground contact stormwater chambers to be used. Will tie into these similar US Bank system. That's possible because all the land is actually owned by Titletown Development. So the Visitor Center and US Bank have ground leases where they own the building but not the land. For public safety, installation of the fire department connection must follow all requirements of IFC, including visibility from approved fire lane and street. Knox box installation required for public safety access near the main entrance following village municipal code section. Forestry, Tim noted approval is presented, good species selection, and from bike and ped, inclusion of bicycle parking that meet the recommendations of the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycling Professionals near the main entrance proximity. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I see Ryan Lancour with RA Smith is online, and anyone else here from the Visitor Center? Thanks.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the site plan and staff conditions as presented. Any more comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 6D, action regarding requested amended site plan review for 2600 South Ashland Avenue, parcel VA-160-4. Aaron.
All right, this is another resubmittal of a project that was actually very recently approved at 2600 South Ashland Avenue. Since the site plan review, they have received rezoning to I-1 light industry to accommodate the wholesale use. Since the original approval, one of the tenants backed out of the project, and that tenant had necessitated the addition of the roughly 5,000 square foot addition to the west, to the back of tenant B suite. That proposal did indicate removal of the existing warehouses that are on the back side of that property. The revised plans do not require the 5,000 square foot addition after that tenant backed out, and therefore those existing buildings are going to remain as well. Otherwise, nothing has really changed in terms of exterior materials, so on and so forth. In terms of recommended conditions of approval, again, use of fully concealed fasteners for new metal panels on street-facing elevations. Screen any new or larger replacement rooftop or ground-mounted mechanical units visible from the property boundary for public right-of-way. Meet all applicable requirements of the Ashwaubenon site plan review and all other applicable village ordinances. From engineering, provide the size of water lateral needed. Contact Al Farber, utility superintendent. From engineering as well, verify an agreement is in place with the Broadway Collision Center to accept stormwater from 2600 South Ashland. So that's, we coordinated with Steve, and that was it for the recommended conditions of approval.
I like the old plan better. I don't like them tin sheds back there. I wish they could be removed. That whole area has been updated. Broadway stuck a ton of money into their building to make it look right. And now we got this coming back at us with the same thing, except the tin sheds are in the back. I'd like to know what their comment is, what's going to happen with them.
Mark or Todd, plans for those, the sheds in the back?
Yeah, we were working with a redevelopment for the 10,000 square feet on the south side. That project did not make, and so we found another tenant for the 10,000 square foot area. And right now, the two existing tenants that are leasing the warehouses are remaining paying rent. They are, right now, unheated storage units that are dead storage. And right now, we understand the phases along Commerce Street, needs to be dressed up, and we would put a hidden fastener face on that. And the rest of the building would be painted with the rest of the building. Right now, probably about half of the frontage along that that total project is being replaced with new hidden fastener siding. The rest of it's being painted. We'd love to take them out, but right now the best course of action is to keep the tenants that are there.
And I'll add that we have a 7-year on the 10,000 square foot space. We have a 7-year deal that we have signed LOI on, so we'll be there a while. It's not signed lease yet, but moving in that direction.
We're putting, well over $1 million into this building, from top to bottom. It's definitely not going to look like it does today. It'll be something that will be comparable to what Broadway has done. And, just on the other side of that, they're storing, cars, and, and they were screened with a screen fence. That's fine, and we won't store anything outside.
So you're gonna make the storage tin buildings look better than what they are right now from the street side?
Correct.
No,
And the tin buildings, you mean the warehouse building?
warehouse buildings.
Okay.
There are 2 warehouse buildings, about 2,500 square feet each. 300 square feet.
And what are you proposing for the exterior of those buildings then, just so I'm
They're
clear?
just hidden fasteners along the frontage of where the road that changes to.
Across Vanderpeer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the rest of it, will be painted.
So the bigger building that's rented, what are you proposing to do with that building?
The entire, not the entire, the appendage where the trunk store is going to remain, but we have new, totally gutted and new faces on that, and windows and retail exposure windows. And then on the south side of that, the entire appendage is going to be ripped off, and that's all going to be a new hidden fastener siding with some skylight windows. And then the entire north side of the building is going to be, I'd say maybe 2/3 of that's going to be all new siding, new doors. And then the very back truck court's going to be reconcreted, new screening fence. So, I mean, there's just substantial investment going back into the building.
I'm Rick Fisher, I'm the architect for the project. And essentially what that building's built now, there's several additions to it. I think there's 4 additions. So what we're doing is we're maintaining the original large building in the middle. We're taking a couple of the additions in the front. We're expanding the parking lot, replacing all the pavement, replacing all the sidewalks. So all the customer facing sides is all new finishes. The new facade on the facing Ashwaubenon Avenue is all new material. So it's a combination of masonry and concealed fastener panels. And that will continue from the entire west side the entire east side on the Ashland side. It continues all around the former Trump store and then all across the close side that's closest to the road on the north side. So approximately half of the entire building is getting masonry and concealed fastener panel side.
You're referring to the Trump store. They're not staying there no more.
No, they're
gone.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Just at the point of reference.
I thought that was kind of vacant today.
Yeah. So
On the south side, that's what is hidden, fastener siding right now facing Broadway. We're gonna put some real skylight windows, and then paint that side. So, it will be improved also, side facing Broadway.
So the other thing that's made a real nice improvement here, I mean, I know there's some real challenges for the stormwater on that site, but I think Mao has done a really great job in providing a curved face sidewalk across all of those storefronts. Where currently it's asphalt kind of right up to the building. So they're able to lower the grade there and put a regular sidewalk in right up against the building, and then all new asphalt, and it all drains, and there's some stormwater features and stuff. So I think, for a difficult site like this that, wasn't playing with any stormwater or any storm sewer at all, I think they've done a really good job in making it look like a modern condition for sidewalks along the building and asphalt, and avoiding some of the current site problems that are happening there over years of, add-ons and patches. So that'll all be removed and all replaced as new. So
In the report here, I noticed there's no comment from the forestry. Is there any landscaping or anything going to be done around there?
Yes, along the front, we'll have bushes and some natural areas, grass. We've hit a green space requirement. I'm not sure what that is on the map, but we got allocated for bushes and along the frontage of the building, along the parking lot, along Ashland.
There is no landscaping in your, that I've noticed.
Gary, if I could, in terms of the site itself, primarily all asphalt right now, or gravel. So any additional landscaping they do is going to be welcome, quite honestly.
That's what I'm getting at.
I think the conversation, Gary, was along that frontage, we were gonna have some bushes and some natural area to soften up the front. Along that south side, that's all grass right now, and that's where, the storm water drains into the storm pipe, and, an area there that, becomes, we're talking about some long grasses or something of that nature to go in there. That area would probably remain, it will remain as that drainage, area. So make that, cover some grasses to cover up, the HVAC unit that's on that side of the building.
Okay. Well, as I refer to a building like this, it's wrinkled tin to me, which we're trying to make these properties look more modern. That's been around there since God made dirt. And, they're really expecting a lot out of you in order to make that corner look nice. It's the entrance to the village. And with what's been done along Ashwaubenon Avenue has been a great improvement. So we're expecting the same out of you people.
So explain to me, on the front of the building, you're taking that first, or the last addition, I should say, you're taking that off?
yeah, there's actually two additions. There's one that has the mural on it where the skate park had been.
Yeah.
So that section's coming off. And then there's another section kind of in the middle of the building.
Yeah.
That's coming off. So the building's moving back about 40 feet.
So it's
Back
gonna
to
go
the
back to
original-
like the L shape
Yeah.
in front, and then am I seeing like a canopy or porch?
Yeah, then there'd be a canopy entrance at each of the entrances that we use similar. And then that way we can, but this allows us to have, somewhat normal parking where right now it's just kind of tight and awkward. And this really opens that up. And it also gives us a green space all along that, for a majority of the frontage on the east side, we've got some landscaping opportunities up against the building.
So I can't really see what those columns are on the northeast corner?
Those are masonry.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're all, yeah. Yeah, so this had been approved previously, so the changes would be that we don't have the addition on the backside anymore. And it also came in with stormwater. So the storm, since the stormwater had changed or the range had all changed, this just, coordinates the entire project into one submittal now, or before we still needed to do the site drainage for the repark. So now, once that was available, then we submitted everything back. So this really is not a different submittal other than we don't have the addition on the back of the building from what had been approved previously.
You keep talking stormwater here. Where's that the water gonna go if you could explain that to us?
Is there a copy of that available?
I don't know.
So currently the site drains to the south. And
All right.
And it drains into the grass, and then there's a slow, there's a little swale. So what Mao has done is they've designed a recessed area in the yard that has drain tiles in it. So it'll capture some of the quantity and also do some infiltration. And then it turns into a buried pipe that goes into the existing catch basin. So the amount of, from what I understand, the amount of water that leaves the site and the rate that it's leaving the site is unchanged from the current condition.
All right, so there's gonna be no overflow into the neighborhood.
It actually goes, there's two catch basins on the south side of the property that connect into a catch basin on Broadway's, and then it goes into their pond.
Yeah.
So I designed their regional pond, so when I did this, I just threw this project right into that stormwater calcs that I did for that one,
Okay,
and made sure that it didn't increase anything in the pond on Broadway.
okay.
So, but yes, right now, there's no easements, there's no agreements or anything between them. It's old school handshake, I'm sure. And there probably should be some sort of, as was noted, there should be some sort of agreement.
Okay. Is that correct, that the drainage patterns are unchanged and the rate of flow is unchanged?
Yeah, it's just, there's more because you're having more pavement go to it, so. And we cut back, there's maintenance and then there's new or redevelopment of pavement. We cut back the new development to under an acre, so otherwise they would probably have to buy into Broadway's pond. The water was going there already, we're just making sure it doesn't change anything in that pond. It technically treats it, but you can't claim the treatment because it's someone else's pond. If that makes sense. The water is always going there.
All right, like I said, we're gonna expect a lot out of you on this building. No other questions. I'll move to approve with all staff conditions.
So I have a question on that pond now. So is there a maintenance agreement on that pond with Broadway?
That's one of the conditions of approval.
Broadway has one,
Yeah.
but there's nothing with this property.
Yeah,
Because
so
because it already went there, Broadway had to deal with it. They don't count it towards, like, there's no credits going to property. So yeah, I'm not sure how that works when it's kind of a forced.
Right, so we want to see that agreement.
with Broadway.
Yeah, so it'll be something the two developers, the two owners will have to work through. and figure out what that's gonna be.
Was that 100% private pond that Broadway built?
That is.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the staff conditions. Are there any other concerns, questions? comments?
Do we need that agreement before, or as a stipulation that we get it?
That's one of the
One of
conditions.
the conditions.
And that's,
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, 6E, action regarding comprehensive revision to Ashwaubenon sign ordinance, section 17-6-200, Ashwaubenon Municipal Code.
All right. So this ordinance, been working on for a while now. back in 2017, there was a US Supreme Court decision that really flipped on its head how municipalities can regulate signs. What it came down to basically was if you have to read a sign to know how to regulate it, based on your ordinance is probably constitutionally illegal. If you have to read a sign to understand how to regulate it, it's unconstitutional. So say, for instance, in our current code right now, we regulate political signs. So if you have a sign in your yard and have to read it to know that, okay, that's a political sign and how do you regulate it? Based upon that, our ordinance is illegal. So we've been administering the ordinance, recognizing that we have strict limitations on how we can regulate speech. It comes down to a freedom of speech issue and how signage is also considered protected speech. We can regulate time, place, manner, material of signs. We cannot regulate content. So if on one of Dan's building, on his the Shell station, there's a Shell logo up there right now, it's a sign. If you want to put up on there, I don't like Aaron Schutte, he can do that because as a sign, it's legal. Again, you can't regulate content. So I can't go over there and say, hey, you can't have that up there. It has to have a Shell logo up there. That's not the case. A sign's a sign's a sign. So whatever you want to put on the sign, you can. But you can, again, regulate the time, place, manner, and material. So what this code does is it really talks about signs in general as opposed to like what goes on the sign. We talk about monument signs, we talk about pylon signs, we talk about pole signs, so on and so forth. And it really is a comprehensive revision with that thought process at heart. It does provide for, for instance, it allows for up to 3 signs in any residential or zoning district, R1 or R2, a period of basically 1 week before a general election as specified in the statutes, and 1 week after a general election, or so on and so forth. So again, you can't say it's a political sign, but you can have a sign in your yard for a time period around the election. So you have to be very, very specific about how you regulate signs.
Did you say you can have a sign 1 week before?
That was my bad. It's longer than 1 week before the election.
Yeah.
It's once you can start sending around papers for nomination, I believe it was, in the code of conduct. Yeah. So it goes back to the statute and when you start now getting signatures for nomination. So the code itself is it's 30 pages, I believe it is. Similar to the previous ordinance, it doesn't make a whole lot of changes to the allowable signage in terms of height, square footage, materials. It really is had to be reworked to accommodate that language from the Supreme Court.
It's pretty much stripped out all the content.
Correct. Yep.
On signs.
Yep. And it does then very purposefully talks about the substitution clause, for instance, that any non-commercial type can replace commercial type on signs. So again, just putting it out there so the courts could look at it and say, well, wait a minute, you're saying we can't have non-commercial type. You very purposely put it in here, says you can. So it was like I said, a profound key change in terms of how signs are regulated. And we think this one will serve us well moving forward. As you read through it, any specific questions that you had on the proposed code? Go ahead, Joe.
If you could just maybe add that there is one somewhat caveat to off-premise signage, just because that kind of comes up when we're regulating content. And if we are, if an individual would like to advertise or sell a product or service off-premise, that still has withstood Supreme Court decision-making, and we can regulate that. So billboards, off-premise signage, things of that nature can be regulated. Instead on-premise signage stuff, where we're a little bit of a gray area.
Right, yeah, makes sense. So we still can regulate billboards and off-premise signs, which is kind of a juxtaposition, if you will, just because to know something's an off-premise sign, you have to read it. But the Supreme Court differentiated that, and they actually just affirmed regulation of off-premise signs in a court case about 2 weeks ago.
So, if I'm just hypothetical, you know, one thing I just saw this,
Yeah.
but I remember last time I asked if we could get a copy of the ordinance with the red line, so the changes. It was very hard to read this and try to remember what the previous ordinance was.
Yeah, and I can show you what the red line looks like.
I'm sure it's a disaster because I don't want to get it as a disaster.
Yeah.
It does help.
Where's that next up here?
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many calls I got with the political stuff with flags that people put on their flagpoles. Because they're not happy with the former administration, or they're not happy with the current administration. And they've got bad words on them, and there's nothing that we could do about it.
So here's just an example of the red line.
Oh, that's kind of normal.
I mean, I can certainly give you a copy of this if you'd like.
Well, I would ask that we table this if we could for 2 weeks. I know we got my time. But I mean, so the hypothetical question I was going to ask you was, so readable content, we can't regulate, but we can regulate video. That's their role. Because we got these message centers out there, they're virtually TV sitting out there. I mean, virtually any image could be put up. So let's assume we got some pornography out there. I mean, I know we have an ordinance, but I know our ordinance does not talk about a video, a message center. And
They can't be rolling, scrolling, or running as a TV.
Yeah, so what, but you can put a naked lady or a naked
Oh,
guy
I
out
see
there.
what you're saying. That could fit in through the time and whatever else. It's not saying what can be on the sign.
But no, what you're telling me is we can't regulate image, video. I mean,
We can regulate how it's portrayed. So like Gary said, we don't allow continuous video, we don't allow streaming, we don't allow
I
flashing.
understand. But they could put an image up there. And we can't take that down.
Well, it has to be for on-premise signage. We can regulate on-premise signage.
Most of those message centers are on premises.
Right.
You know.
So if they're advertising something that's on-premise, they can. Now, if it gets to like pornography, then there's all sorts of other regulations in place that deal with that.
Yeah, I think what we can do is talk with council on that. It kind of ties, if I understand it correctly, pornographic imagery, obscene messaging can be regulated, but you have to understand what the definition of obscene imagery would be in order to regulate it. So we can come back to the group and kind of identify that. I think it falls under kind of the same premise as off-premise signage, meaning it can be regulated to a certain extent. But again, there's still some slippery slopes as far as what is considered obscene and what isn't. So the popular thing, as Mary had described, are the flags or a banner or a sign that people put up that have obscene language in it with whatever president they despise of. And under the code, we cannot regulate that language. So we can ask them kindly and politely to take that flag down or that sign down, but unfortunately we can't.
Well, I will tell you, Dan, I drove to the lady's house and she did take it down.
I did one too.
Oh, she did.
Mhm.
Did you take it out?
Mhm.
Oh.
It was right across from the church, so I was able to point to that and say, this is kind of a bad look.
Yeah.
You know, Can't the people have a little common sense and say, I'm next to a church and I got
What
that?
did you say? You said that out loud?
I don't think that
Can't
exists
people
anymore.
have common sense? The answer is very, very definitive. No.
Put me in jail. But I mean, it just, you see this stuff that Mary talked about. I know Mary had something, you said you did, and you see it all over, but, I just can't understand why people have to be so local. I can understand the world is not a perfect place, but we all have our opinions, but if you got an opinion, make sure it's done correctly without vulgar or picturesque scenes on it. But we don't live in that world anymore.
Okay, so I thought I heard Dan say that he had entertained the idea about tabling this.
So this is our entire site.
Yes.
I mean, so I don't want to be bad about it. Is there like a limit? I mean, could we table it for 2 weeks and let me?
Well, I guess Aaron would agree to this, that we're currently theoretically in violation. Should we be challenged on certain provisions within our code? And we have been in that state for a period of time. So what will 2 weeks grant you? The potential for 2 weeks of complaints, but not that we've gotten it, right?
Complaints.
Well, there's a difference in having an ordinance and enforcing it. So I mean.
Right. And I don't know that if we have a situation where we think it may be unenforceable,
Yeah.
we haven't put ourselves in a position to take a hard stance in enforcing it. Put it that way.
I do think you have a valid point.
This is our entire site. At the very least, I'd like to understand this so when we make motions and vote.
I also want to, I kind of agree with Dan. From some of my experience in dealing with contract language, it's a lot less problematic to have the red lines to see what's new and what's old. A lot less confusion. It's not too much work. I think that would help a lot.
It looks like, yeah, you just.
I do. Yeah, I do.
But Dan, is this the only reason you'd like to table it for 2 weeks?
Yeah, just so, I've not read the top sentence that basically says it's our whole ordinance.
But I mean,
So-
if it's just a red line deal, can't we approve it and you get a copy of that? Or
He
you
didn't
wanna?
get the ordinance, Gary. He just got his packet. He never got his.
Oh, you.
I haven't even read it. I haven't read it.
I see.
So I think Larry forwarded the mail and I think it's 2 or 3 days behind. And Terry probably mailed it out Friday. I'll get it this afternoon in the mail or tomorrow.
Okay, I see.
So this is totally my fault. I mean, I just think it would be cool if we had the red line, we can look at it.
Well, and that would reflect on one of my questions here, and that's, I don't know if this is a question relating to the old ordinance or the change, because I don't know what's a change, but with respect to the permits and procedures thing, they talk about samples of materials, replications of exact colors. That would be really, and also photographs. Again, going back to zoning and even some of the stuff we have here, somebody will come in with a drawing, not real helpful, some of the stuff that we get. And the more detail we have, I think the better we can be at making the decisions. So my question would be, if this is new, it should be in there. And if it's old, I would like to underscore the value of it for us. Might require somebody to spend a little more money on taking a picture than jotting something down.
I guess just for background, when you get sign permits, we always get a copy of a rendering of the, say it's a wall sign, facade of the building, so an actual photograph with the wall sign superimposed on the rendering with the dimensions on it. And based off of that, then we can calculate the square footage, it's allowable, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm speaking more to probably the homeowner changes and the garage changes and the things that we don't have. They don't necessarily have an architect or an engineer doing. They just come in here with a rough drawing, and I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect sometimes a little more detail. That's all. That's my point. Is this new language or is this existing?
That's existing language.
That's all I got.
Okay. So
I'll make a motion to table for 2 weeks. I'll be perfectly happy to reserve you. If you want, I can call.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this item, and if we pass that, there's no more discussion on it, because we have no more discussion, because we are tabled. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll bring it back in 2 weeks.
I will send you copies of the red line. And keep in mind, just because something is struck through doesn't mean it's gone. Even if you take it, move it, it gets struck through and moved. So hopefully this will be helpful for you.
We'll send this paper.
No, just email.
Just digital will be fine.
Yeah.
Or PDF.
Do you have other email addresses?
Yeah, except Andy.
Email.
It's all printed for you.
Yeah, Dan.
You don't have like a Squarespace.
Yeah, I can read it. We'll have this discussion on Thursday.
I was gonna say,
That's what I have to do my prep early in the morning.
So moving on to number 7, we have department reports, and 7 and 8 we always do together. Item to the next agenda, we will have item on next
Yes, we will. The sign ordinance.
Right.
We also have just received a site plan for a parking lot at Marina Circle to help facilitate the office building down there for Fincantieri and RBC Financial. So that came through. And then I'll introduce David Busco. He's our new senior building inspector. He knows our commercial plumbing. You want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure. As my name is David. I'm in plumbing for 9 years. I recently got my master plumbing license. So decided to go out of the field and take a little bit different view on plumbing and from the inspector side of things. So working through to get all my other certifications here in the next year. All the ones that you need both UBC inspector, electrical, UBC electrical and national, and all the fire codes associated. So far it's doing good. Excited to keep going.
Well done. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're gonna adjourn.